Hey, what's up guys? Jay's 2 Cents here, coming at you with an old school video. Just me filming today in the lab. Nick's at a funeral, unfortunately, and Phil is feeling under the weather today. So, I got a video I want to make. I got a video I gotta make because I just got back from vacation and we've got nothing filmed. So, here's what we're gonna do. Today we're gonna be talking about the new EXO test bench from Liquid House, which is actually something you guys have never seen on my channel before, but we've known Ellie and John over there for years. And yeah, the stuff they put out puts like my builds to shame. And never said this to them directly, but I look up to their builds and they are aspiration fuel for me. That's one of the reasons why I've got into 3D printing and I've now got the tabletop CNC and I want to start stepping up our game. So today we're going to start by taking a look at a new product that they just released, and it's pretty sick. It's not just a test bench. It can be used as an open air test bench. It can be used as an open air case. It can be a full water cooling rig. It could be integrated with the Der Bauer bench table right here, which is pretty cool. So today we're going to unbox it, assemble it because it is flat packed, and then we're going to kind of see what it's all about. Because of the fact that I am expanding our lab, and I'll kind of take you guys on a quick tour real quick actually. Yeah, okay, got a lot of changes that are happening around here, and that happens every time I go on vacation. I come back with a bunch of ingrown anal hairs. No, wild hair. That's wild. You know what? Let's run the ad. If you're serious about your aim, your mouse actually matters more than people think. And this is Be Quiet's new Dark Perk gaming mouse. Now what I like is that they don't do the usual one shape fits nobody approach. You've got two options, the Sim, which is a classical symmetrical design, and the Ergo, if you want something that actually fits your hand for longer sessions. It's also super lightweight, which makes a bigger difference than people realize, and less fatigue, easier micro adjustments, and just better overall control. And inside you get the PixArt PAW3950 sensor, up to 32,000 DPI, and 8,000 Hertz polling. So yeah, this is top tier tracking, and no weird acceleration, no spin outs, and just exactly what you expect your mouse to do. And the clicks feel really nice too. These are optical Omron switches, so they're fast, consistent, and a little softer than the typical click, which is great for long sessions. And then the part that people overlook, it's 100% PTFE skates with rounded edges, which means this thing glides smooth, predictable, and with no drag. Oh, and with up to 110 hours of battery life, so you're not constantly plugging it in. So if you're trying to get every little advantage you can in competitive gaming, this is one of those upgrades you'll actually notice. So check out the Be Quiet Dark Perk mouse in the link in the description below. Okay, so quick tour. You guys have seen the building, obviously enough. A lot of stuff over here happening right now behind the scenes that you guys can't see. This is where we typically test our GPUs. This is just a general, I don't know what it's focusing on my hand. There we go. Stop focusing on my hand. Whoop. Anyway, so the system on the right is where we do a lot of our power testing and just kind of general use. System on the left is dedicated for GPUs only. That is there just to trigger Steve. We're okay with that. This is where we test fully assembled builds right here so that we can make sure everything's working properly. Obviously my micro soldering station. This is just turned into extra storage for now, but water cooling, draining and all that stuff. Back here, water cooling testing, and then 3D printing, which is going right now. But if we come in here, you can see we got some plans on the wall there. Hopefully there's no label showing. This room right now, which used to be our fake corner set, which we decided we never really use, this area is being kind of reconditioned and repurposed into the lab. Right now it's just a giant storage, but we're gonna have tables in the middle right here, tables over here in the corner, tables over here, where every station will be doing specific testing so that we can have data for you guys on the stuff that we wanna test. And that way it doesn't interfere with our actual lab. So, well, that's gonna be the lab. This is where most of my best thinking happens. And then in here is gonna be more of the recording studio build area and whatnot. So I got a lot of reimagining happening here. And then on that note, yeah, we've got some new positions we're looking to fill with some very specific talents and skills that are needed there. So we already have people in mind. We've already started some discussions. So anyway, just want to put that out there. But back to the topic at hand. Let's go and talk about the EXO. Let's unbox it. Let's build it. And let's see if maybe it's the appropriate cuboid, cubanoid for your build. You know, the funniest thing about filming alone in this space is that none of it's set up for this. So I'm kind of doing everything backwards here, and that's why I'm like leaning in all sideways, because I used to do this and I kind of forgot how I did this back in the day. So anyway, this here, as you guys can see, is the bench table. I've already done an unboxing and a video about this before, nothing new. The reason why I have it is they specifically told me that it's compatible with the bench table. Now, the bench table is compatible basically with anything a motherboard. Well, actually, I guess no, it's not compatible with anything a motherboard can go in. But this, as you can see right here, is just essentially a place where you can plug in some 2.5-inch SSDs right here if you wanted. It's a place for you to be able to get full plug-in of, say, you know, you got SATA ports right here on the side. We've got our USB 2, I think that's 2, could be, nope, it's USB 3 and USB 4. Okay, interesting. Fan headers, different control mechanisms for the fan headers, obviously 6-pin, you know, PCI Express, USB 2. Oh, okay, I get it now. USB 1, 2, 3, 4, they're labeled. Okay, so I was like, USB 4, is there something I don't know? Anyway, the fan zone right here, it's funny because you can see how we have our fan headers, but it could be set to external, which means external control, or 50% speed, or 100% speed. So you can just automatically overwrite some cool stuff. But anyway, for the purposes of being a, you know, this is its own, it's got feet and everything attaches to it. You put your motherboard on there and it becomes its own standalone bench table, as it says in there. So they say that the EXO is compatible with this. So I'm really curious as to what that means, considering this is intended to be its own thing. And when you have a motherboard already like on an open test bench, you already have access to all those ports and plugs and stuff. So it's kind of interesting to me to think like having a header that comes off the motherboard into the in on like the bench table, and then using the bench table seems redundant, but what do I know? I'm also trying very hard here not to like trip over the tripod, but it's going to happen. Okay, let's see what we got here. This is literally all on camera for the first time. So, oh, we're met with a postcard. With how much you enjoy water cooling, overclocking, tweaking, testing, and overall passion for pushing PCs in general, we only felt it right for you to have the first of our upcoming EXO test bench chassis. We know you'll enjoy it as much as we do. Keep up the awesome content. Thank you for that. As much as it's hard to find positivity today, we choose to find it. As much as there is plenty to be upset about. But there are still things to be excited about. So we have a Liquid House sticker. We have, oh, okay, yeah. So there is gonna be a minor change. We'll talk about this in a minute. This is the power button. This might be the most over-engineered, ridiculous power button I've ever seen, but in a good way. Check this out, listen. That is like, it reminds me of like an e-stop. Like on a, anyway, this thing is huge, listen to this. It's machined, so it looks really good. Catches the light nicely. It actually has screw terminal posts on top for the wires, not just like little spade connectors. So that's pretty cool. Assuming these are the feet for it, yes, these are the rubber feet for the bottom of the bench table. They do have threaded, no, they're not threaded. They're gonna be through holes, but they do have what looks like steel reinforcement in there. That's nice. They're not gonna just rip over time. Okay, we got a bag of hardware. Nice machine screws, look nice. We got some shims in there of some sort. Another bag of different screws and shims. So I've obviously not checked any manuals or anything yet. We'll figure that out. So they give us a black sticker and a white sticker for the Liquid House logo. Again, white and black Liquid House text. So actually says their business name all the way across. And then here's the motherboard standoff kit right there. So we're interested to see how that works with the bench table. Okay, that's very heavy. Oh, it's a set of 4, that's why. These are aluminum brackets of some sort. And we have a plethora of foam protected pieces. We have what appears to be a water jet. This might be water jet, I would assume. Looks water jet. This is their logo. Let me see if I can unwrap it here. So this is the kind of stuff I want to start being able to make. Pain in the ass. Anyway, that's the EXO logo. You can kind of see right there. I'll get this unpackaged. Oh wow, this is, okay, it's steel. That is beefy AF. Oh, check that out. Jay's 2 cents edition. So it's just gonna be digressing all the time. That's cool. But see, this is exactly why I wanted my little CNC machine with our laser engraver and stuff, because I can start doing stuff like this on custom builds, and then I can put plaques on them, which is something I'm missing. And this is some sort of frame. So I'm gonna have to do a little research, find their manual. I believe it's online on how to assemble this thing. But look, there are so many like different threaded screw hole options. And the thing is, this was intended to have options with it, like the way you want to use it. So let's figure this out. Okay, so here's all the parts laid out. You can see we've got some brackets and such right there. Bunch of little legs. A lot of them have adjustability built into them, so I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, I gotta reference a manual to see how this all goes. But I wanted to show you something that I think is kind of neat. This is obviously where the liquid house, not just the German aspect of the way house is spelled, but the liquid part comes in. So this bracket right here, I haven't confirmed this, but I'm fairly certain that the holes, sorry if the focus is off, but the holes right here, that's lane DDC spacing. So you can get a DDC pump to mount directly to that. I'll have to dig one out and see if that's the case. But the one change I wanted to talk about that they did tell me about are these holes right here. So as you can see, these components, these two parts right here, the power supply bracket and this bracket have these holes in there. And he was saying that some of the holes he had to change the diameter on because the power button wasn't fitting through. So I'm gonna kind of test that right now. Fits through this one right here. Yeah, fits through there, but I think it's this other bracket. Yeah, okay, so it fits these two brackets just fine. Yeah, so they fit through this just fine. It's these holes which are too small that he said he had to make bigger. No, they fit through just fine. Okay, well, maybe he already did the revision on these. I love this power button. This is, yeah. Now I know my head's being cut off a little bit, but I do want to test something here. She did say, when I was talking to Ellie about this, she did say, yeah, it's really intuitive, you know, the way it goes together. It should make sense. It is customizable, so you can lay things out kind of how you want them to be. So I looked at a couple reference photos of their sample builds when they showed this off. They also, I think they kind of showed it at Long Beach Grand Prix. Can't remember. Anyway, I'm going to sort of just wing it. I'm going to see if I can just build it, and we'll go from there. But what I can tell you that I've already found out is these brackets right here are intended to go through like the main, this is like the main grounding piece right here. Like this would be almost where the feet are. So it's very durable in steel. Anyway, here are the feet. We've got these 4 holes here that are not threaded, which is where the feet will go, right? Through there like that with the short screws. And you can have this be, and I'll put some of their sample photos up too of their builds. This can be a flat test bench. It can be upright as well. I'm not sure which way I would want it to go for us. Upright would be nice because it would allow us to have more desk space. Although this is not a very big footprint though. This is actually 14.5 inches by 14.5 inches, whatever that works out to in other units that you prefer. So yeah, there's a lot of customization to this. So I'm gonna kind of just use their sample photos to see how I want to do this. Like this is gonna be the IO hold down brackets, like for graphics cards and such, and that's gonna mount here, I believe, like that. I think. What's throwing me off though is that both pieces are threaded. So I don't know if it's intended to go here. Might go here. I know that these are intended to mount on these sliding rails right here. So you can see, these are the feet, like I said, that go upright. They also double as like radiator mounts and all that. They can go with, you know, the inlet going in or out, depending on how you want. So if you wanted to recess the radiators in a little bit between the layers, you'd flip it like this. If you want them to be more external, you'd flip it like that. But they can slide up and down along this whole rail system. So that is what I think is kind of neat. I would maybe get your positioning how you want it before you fully tighten it down. That way any of the coating on here, which it does appear to be powder coated because it is steel, that way you're not scratching it all up. So let me kind of start getting this together a little bit, and I'll take you guys along as I figure out how I'm gonna do it. All right, so I got the feet mounted. I'm thinking flat, it's probably gonna make the most sense for me. So these are the brackets right here that I said can go either, right, with the, I don't know what to call this, like it's a C shape, right? So you have the C facing out or the C facing in, so you could push the radiator out or have the radiator be recessed. Now, why would you want to recess it? Well, if you're running a 360 millimeter radiator, actually it is wider than the whole thing. So I guess if you're running a 240 or a 280, then you could run them internally technically. But if you run these facing out, now you can actually have your radiator, right? Your radiator would just mount directly to the bracket, or fans, push-pull, whichever method you choose. And then you can have it on the outside. Now, what I wanted to test was, do they fit 140 millimeter fans or brackets? And the answer is yes, they do. So that's nice. That means if you're running not a thick, but a wider 360, kind of like the Crossflow, which didn't fit side by side in the custom water-cooled build I'm working on, it'll fit in here because it fits a 420. So now I just need to figure out, now here's the other thing when building in this, is you kind of need to have that figured out before you assemble it, for the simple fact that if you want to mount the radiator after these are in, but you have the top and everything on, you can't really get to the inside very well. So you kind of want to build it, as far as my opinion is, from the bottom up. The very last thing being the top piece with the motherboard tray and all of that. So I don't really have a planned use for this yet. I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna sort of just, I think, do kind of a generic build on this right now. Now, one thing I want to point out too is there's holes in the middle here, like in this X. And I'm not entirely sure what those are intended for. We also have these brackets. And by the way, I actually couldn't find a manual. I'm just searching really poorly. So I am kind of on my own for this. But I'm not entirely sure what these brackets are for. Got to look more closely at their build examples. This, I learned though, is a fan shroud technically. So this can mount to 360 millimeter radiators. And then what it allows you to do is sort of like turn the radiator into sort of the logo, which is kind of neat. And it won't really impede airflow. I mean, it looks like it might. We've tested trying to block airflow through radiators and actually trying to extend the fans off the radiators to see if you get better cooling. And to be honest, it's so negligible. It's very difficult to even quantify the measurement. But I'm gonna keep researching now how to put this thing together, because I know Ellie was like, you can figure it out. I think she overestimated my brain. See, case in point. Okay, so you can see I kind of got the legs and everything set up. I don't know if this is exactly how I would use it yet. It would take some time to figure it out. But you can see I sort of decided to use these as just posts on the corners. But if I wanted to use these specifically for a radiator, I would have to decide, right? Are these going to line up on the ends, which absolutely they would. I could do that. Or would I want to push them into the middle? And that's why I kind of assembled it loose. That way I could sort of slide it where I want. I do have the nylon washers, which came with it. Right, it's kind of hard to see, but there are little black nylon washers, which I showed, that are on the screw head side. So when I'm sliding it around, I'm not scratching it up. But I could line this up more in the middle and have them be a little bit more stealthy. And then I could mount my rad to it like that. Right, so I'm gonna go ahead and like mount this radiator up to it with the tubes facing out. And I could use the fans on the inside if I wanted. I'm not gonna put any fans on here right now because it would be no different than attaching a fan and radiator on the inside or outside of your case, or pass through where the case is sandwiched between. That doesn't, obviously there's a lot of open space in here. I put the power supply here in the middle. And if I needed more room, I can just slide it on the rail over farther. So that's kind of nice. Anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and thread this radiator to the bracket. And then I also have this old XSPC reservoir combo, pump combo, just to sort of show how like I could mount this also if I wanted on a different side. Right, I could mount it horizontally on the brackets or something. Obviously, I could use the DDC pump and a separate reservoir if I wanted. That part is mounted right here. But again, I just sort of attached everything on here. And then I guess if I were doing an actual real build right now that I was gonna be keeping together, I would sort of figure out my layout, and then I would start tightening things down where they go. So let me go ahead and get the radiator and the shroud, the fan shroud mounted. Okay, first problem I sort of ran into, which any self-respecting modder wouldn't necessarily call this a problem, but if you are not a modder, then you need to be aware of this. The screws that come with the Corsair radiator, they are like I forget the actual pitch of this screw, but anyway, the bracket is pretty thick, as you guys have seen. The screw is not very long, and the screw hole in the radiator is pretty recessed. So what that means is this screw does not reach the radiator. So this is where I say any self-respecting modder wouldn't call this a problem, because you could just take the longer screws that aren't needed, because they come with what, 28 mil and 30 mil fan screws, I believe. That way you have enough pass-through for 28 mil fans or 25 mil fans. You would just cut those down to the right length, or run to the hardware store and buy slightly longer screws. Now they do provide some screws. The problem is they're random screws and they don't fit this particular radiator. So just know it's obviously it can't be one size fits all, especially with these recessed heads on this rad. So I'm gonna switch over to the Black Ice Nemesis, which I think is a more surface mounted screw hole. That way we should have plenty of thread length. Okay, so here's the Black Ice Crossflow rad, and this is where I say this is more of a radiator problem and not really a problem with the EXO, is the fact that this is the exact same screw that I wouldn't fit on the Corsair. It uses the exact same hardware on the Hardware Labs rad, but as you can see, there is no problem with getting this to catch. Boom. Yeah, so there, like I said, this isn't an EXO problem. That is a Corsair radiator problem, which is kind of ironic because I'm fairly certain that the ODM for Corsair's radiators is Hardware Labs. Okay, so you can see I got the 360 mounted, no problem, full 360 support. I can still slide this around to get it where I want. It's pretty wobbly until the top piece is on, then it'll be really solid. Now I want to point this out. I showed earlier that a 420 does fit in the bracket, right? As I showed. However, it's not technically officially supported because of the fact that the holes on the brackets do not line up, because these are intended for a 360. However, if you mounted this on the outside, you could still get the top holes, right? You could just align the top holes with the very top of the bracket. It would hang down probably and touch the table. But if you really wanted a 420 or a 280 in here, you can make it work. All right, so as you can see now, I've got the power supply in there. I've got the XSPC reservoir mounted. And the cool thing about that is I was able to actually ditch its own bracket that it comes with, because I was able to mount it just directly to the rail system. That's why I love rail systems like this, because they allow you to be versatile, and then it's actually cleaner looking because I don't have their stupid L bracket on there. So, yep, there's that. Now the power supply looks wobbly right now because there's no top piece supporting it. It's fine, like with the 4 screws holding it. I do kind of wish maybe that there was some sort of a rubber support or something for the back, just for the longer, heavier power supplies too. Doesn't appear that it has any sort of, these shims, are they the right length? No. Doesn't appear there's any sort of support system for it, so I would keep that in mind. Oh, I forgot to mount the EXO. I gotta mount the EXO on the rad, because, actually no, we'll do that as the cherry on top. Okay, so before I tighten up any of these corner pieces, the middle ones are fairly tight. Radiator's totally on there now. I'm gonna go ahead and get the top piece to line up. And because it's a square, you can determine, like, let's say you put this on and you're like, oh man, I wish the radiator was on the other side. There, now the radiator's on the other side. So it's pretty neat the way that you can just sort of get this oriented how you want it. But the motherboard is always going to be in a certain direction with the logo thing on top, because obviously where the mounting mechanism is for the whatchamacallit, oh my god. So obviously you have the GPU support and stuff there. So I have to kind of figure out how this goes, because this is threaded. Oh, that's threaded that way. Okay, so there we go. It goes like this, it lines up with all those screws, and you can put a screw in every single one, so it has lots of support. So we're getting close, but I still have to figure out how the bench table is supposed to work with this, unless it's just considering the fact that it's got these cutouts here that I won't interfere with anything. I'm not entirely too sure. Notice how the radiator is like sort of sticking out farther than the test bench itself, and then fans would obviously push that out more. I'm going to show you how you can actually adjust this without having to take anything else really apart. So I just took those 2 screws off, can set it upright like this. Take these 2 screws off, because you're not going to be able to, whoops, I just sent that washer flying. You're not going to be able to put fans on the inside where the bracket is, obviously, because the bracket's in the way. So, and this was also where I learned along the way, it's probably a lot better of a build experience if you pre-mount the stuff to the brackets like this, you know, so the brackets are already on here, and then attach them to the frame. But what I'm showing you right now, though, is actually pretty neat, because I realized I wanted to change it, and I'm like, crap, do I have to take the whole thing apart again because it's support structure? No, because it has so much support. I took these off, and there was absolutely no structural integrity change at all for it. So take that off, and then basically just flip it around. Now, when I had this together right now, before I showed you guys, I was actually able to pick it up by the radiator. There was no flex or wobble in there at all. All right, so you saw I just flipped the bracket around. I still have my 4 screws with their washers in place. Fittings are on the outside. Now I can just slot this back in there. Boom, now it fits nice and flush like it's kind of supposed to. See that right there? And then I can still get my screws tightened down where I need them to be. Oh, so what's happening now is I'm hitting this top bracket here. So just loosen it up a couple of turns. Slide that out of the way. Same thing with the bottom one here. So this is all fully adjustable with it assembled, which is actually kind of nice. And in fact, I don't even need these brackets right here, because I have the power supply bracket, which is taking on so much of the supportive weight right now. The cool thing is, because this is steel, you can really, like, you don't have to crank it down, but you can honestly go pretty tight on the screws, simply because of the fact that it's steel and not aluminum. So that means you're not going to strip it very easily. Now my radiator is a little crooked because I have the bracket on there crooked, and that's something I need to adjust. I have to take it back off to do that. But anyway, you just saw, now I made it nice and flush. But as you can see here, the radiator is a little crooked in its bracket because it does have a little bit of play like this, so I didn't make sure it was square when I tightened it back up. Fortunately, I can get my screwdriver up in here. You guys can't really see what I'm doing, but I'm just now taking my screwdriver right through the EXO here, and I can just do this now with it on there. And you can see how sturdy it is by just its GPU mounting arm. Like, it takes the weight of it without bending or anything. So it's very, very sturdy. Okay, let's talk about the deBauer bench table for a second here. I'm still not convinced I would use this, like, honestly, for benchmarking, because I don't need all these extra connections. I mean, you got 4 SD card slots right there. I guess that's kind of neat if I was doing like a lot of GoPro footage or something. Pump testing and whatnot, maybe 100%, 50% external control on all of those headers. But yeah, so it looks like what we have some really long screws here. So I'll kind of figure this out real quick for those that would want to use it, I guess. They look like, so I'm pretty sure these long pass-throughs right here are what are needed for the bench table. So I think what happens here is you can just thread that on like that. That goes through like that. If that's even the hole it would use, but yeah, that goes through like that. And then you would thread the bench table's standoff, which it comes with, back through there. And then the motherboard would just mount on top of that. So I don't know, I'll put it on there for now, I guess. I'm just not, again, I'm not convinced that this is that necessary. I felt that when we first got the bench table also. Actually, you know what? I just decided not to even try, and I'll tell you why. It just dawned on me if I raise up the motherboard, I have to raise up the graphics card support. And I'm not really seeing anything here specifically unless it's these guys. Because there's these shims. And is that? Oh wow, what do you know? They're the exact thickness. They're the exact thickness of the power, or the bench table. So I keep calling it power board. It's very similar to Singularity computers. But yeah, so these come off. Guess I shall continue. All right, next thing I'm dealing with here, maybe I just need to reach out to John and Ellie, is this part of the bench table has this overhang. See how it like sticks out? I cannot get it to line up with the motherboard mounting holes because that impacts where these need to be. So, because I need to get these two posts to these two holes that are right there, but I can't slide them over far enough because it hits that. And it's not like I can take the middle ones out or anything. It's also not like these holes line up so I can pass them through. So I'm gonna take those back out, and this is where I'm gonna ditch the bench table until I get some documentation on how that works. So I put the power button right here in the corner, but these are actually the holes I mentioned earlier that John said he had to make like 1 millimeter larger, because you can see they don't just drop in. Like the hole's just ever so slightly too small. I mean, you can push it in, but obviously they want this to be a flawless user experience. So, oh, and I knocked off one of the wires, so I gotta fix that. So they already fixed this on the retail version that you guys can buy today. So I just wanted to point that out. Like, I knew he said that they had to do that, but I was not sure. How did what the, for Pete's sake. But this is what's nice about those threaded posts on there. So I guess I can show you guys that in real time, like actually show you how useful this is to have posts rather than, spade connectors, because spade connectors are, you know, you have to have the right connectors and the crimps and all that stuff. Open up the terminal. And I was wondering if that'd be too big, and it is. So I'm gonna grab one of the smaller Phillips heads right here. It doesn't even look like it broke the wire. I think it just pulled out. And then it doesn't matter which terminal or post this goes on, because it's just a circuit switch. So it's just gonna complete a circuit. It's not polarized in any way. There we go, that's back. Let's make sure that the 12 volt is, it's actually a ground that's completing. But anyway, cool, so there's that. And there's your biggest, beefiest power button I think I've ever had. Last but not least, motherboard. So I grabbed one of the biggest, beefiest boards ever. This is just a Max something or another from Asus, Maximus Extreme. Make sure all my standoffs are in the right spot. Yes, they are. None of these standoffs are, oh, and see, this is why I wanted to check this. Big motherboard is interfering with power button. Cannot get those holes to line up. Actually, oh, I don't know. Let me see. I'm curious now. But this is why we do what we do, because I went with the super wide motherboard. That is like definitely an EATX board, because I was curious if we were going to have any sort of alignment issues with anything on the board. Okay, that's a game of millimeters, and I think maybe they accounted for that. I'm hoping, because this is a premium product that I think would absolutely attract premium hardware on it, and this is the kind of stuff you deal with premium hardware. But it does look to me like we have plenty of play in the mounting screws to push this over slightly. Yeah, look at that. Ooh, the sucker's close, but it clears. So again, it's probably my favorite feature is this dang button. I need to buy some of those just for custom builds. I also want to point out, I figured out what these were for by using, a good portion of my brain. I was like, why are they curved? Oh, they're fan brackets, so you can attach them. Now I know my head's cut off, but this is the star, not this. I'm doing you a favor right now. So you can, if you want, flip these brackets to where you can have one or two of them up, so you can mount an AIO or something up here, because obviously the radiator down here would be bad for an AIO because the pump would be above the rad, which means you'd be catching air in the pump. So if you wanted to flip the brackets over, at least two of them, like, I don't know, up here on top or something, so you can have an AIO right here and then coming to it, which is better than having it below that. You can also use these brackets with various other mounting locations and arms to be able to mount fans either on the surface or to these brackets, like going crossways, just so you have cross flow if you wanted. But I think it's important to have airflow on top. These components on top, I did not tighten these corner ones down very good. These components on top are, as you can see, giant VRM heat sinks and stuff. And it's important to have airflow over that. So if you have all the radiators and all the fans down in the lower compartment, these parts on top are just dealing with, they're just radiating heat and not actively cooling. So having a fan or something mounted to a bracket that would allow you to be able to have airflow over the components up here is important. Okay, so now for the reveal. I think this is just a really neat touch. Yeah, I'm incredibly proud of what John and Ellie have created over there. And I'm really honored to be a part of the launch for them. I didn't even know that this thing wasn't even out yet when they brought it by, because they were in town for the Long Beach Grand Prix. I didn't get to go, but that's okay. I'm not jealous a lot, more than normal, I guess. Anyway, it is really, really refreshing to see a product like this exist. Obviously for bench table needs or bench, marking needs, or anyone that just likes open chassis. I mean, it's different, And the versatility and the customization aspect of it is just pretty much endless because everything has mounts. Like, there's brackets here, I don't even know what they do. I'm pretty sure one of these is like a GPU support type deal for vertical mount. I'm pretty sure some of this is vertical mount stuff, but she did tell me the manual's coming. So, but an idiot like me was able to at least figure out the basic concept and layout on this without an issue. I do think it would be fun to build something in this. What I really need is something that has the PMD in mind, that allows the PMD to mount to something so it's not flopping around. Then we can have for our power testing rig, the PMD on here, whether it's down below or on the front or something, and it doesn't have to be water cooled. Just put the brackets up top of the AIO and across, the AIO itself can blow air, excuse me, across the VRMs and that'd be fine. But anyway, yeah, so there's a lot of use cases for it. And what I'm showing you right now is super basic, but obviously we put on screen here what their concept builds look like, their prototypes and when they were messing around with that. And it looks so freaking cool. So anyway, I'm gonna get on out of here, guys. I'll put a link to their launch page down below. This was not paid for or anything. This was hey, we want you to check this out. And they brought it by and I'm like, oh, cool. I didn't even really know it was coming until a couple of days beforehand. So I think I like it better so far than any other open air test bench with water cooling in mind that has existed in the past. I really like our open bench tables, the just flat platform with legs on it that we use for pretty much all of these systems around here that are for bench marking and bench testing. The ones that tend to exist back in the day, like the Praxis wet bench from Primo Chill, even the Singularity Computers one, they all had some pretty glaring flaws in my opinion that I didn't like about them. And this seems to address most of them. I don't have any immediate complaints about this or anything that I would change. I think it's pretty well thought out to where you're not really having to sacrifice too much. You can incorporate nice water cooling. If you come up with custom, this whole section isn't even being used. These two sides, I just put the reservoir there because that's what they did. They put a double reservoir and I was like, oh, cool, yeah, I can use, look, I mean, it's pretty strong, right? But I mean, I could have a radiator on either side. They could be cross flow. You can use one side here. Like this is for sure a Lang DDC 12 volt pump mount. They showed it on their own page. But I could have radiators on either side and a distro plate with a built-in pump on one side with tubes going. I mean, it would be really cool looking. And it would be cool looking for an everyday use scenario. It doesn't just have to be, and this is one downside I want to point out. Even though you crank these down, because there's only one mounting point, top and bottom, although that one wasn't very tight, they still, if you try and slide it like I just did, now it's tight. If they're not really tight, then they will almost act like a hinge. So something to keep in mind. But yeah, I think the use cases for this are kind of unlimited based on the rail system. And I'm really excited to see what they come up with in the future. If you haven't checked out Liquid House, you definitely need to check them out. I know they had stuff on display at our SoCal Tech Expo. News regarding that for another time, but I know a lot of people have asked, hey Jay, are you doing Tech Expo this year? Short answer, no, because long answer is much bigger version of that is coming early next year. So you heard it here first, start building some hype around that. We're excited, doing it right, doing it big, very legit, using proper facilities and all that. So anyway, time to get out of here. Like I said, this is, shows what you can do with some ingenuity, steel, and very basic brackets. But all right, time to get out of here. What do you guys think about this? I don't think it's too little too late. I think some people would say, oh, water cooling's dead, but considering companies are just throwing efficiency out the window and making things high power draw and high heat tolerances again, water cooling's kind of making a comeback. So there you go, guys. Check it out in the link down below. Thanks for watching. This was kind of fun to do this video old school style. The only difference is I'm not in my bedroom. I'm in a much bigger, much more expensive room. All right, we'll see you in the next one.